The kingdom of my divine will in the midst of creatures. Book of Heaven, Volume 33, Part 6. May 12th, 1934. Extreme need of the abandonment in the divine will. The virtue of it. How we all revolve around God. Only the human will keeps wandering about and is the disturber of all. My abandonment in the Fiat is for me an extreme need of my poor heart, because it makes me feel its divine paternity and maternity, which keeps me clasped to its bosom with its arms of light, so as to pour itself into me as most tender mother who loves her daughter with inseparable love, but so much as to want to generate her life within her daughter. It seems it is a delirium, a divine passion of this holy mother, which renders her all eye, all attention and care, all heart, and in continuous act of working, in order to be conceived, be born, and make her life grow within her daughter, who is all abandoned in her arms. So abandonment in the divine will facilitates the cures and renders feasible the cares of this celestial mother, for her to form her life, all of divine will, in the creature. My beautiful mamma. There is a footnote here with regards to the word mamma. In this instance, it's being referred to as the divine will. My beautiful mamma. Oh, divine will, please do not detach me from your breast of light, that I may feel your life within me, which, retouching me continuously, may let me know how much you love me, who you are, and how beautiful, lovable, and adorable you are. But while my mind was wandering in the total abandonment in the divine volition, my sweet Jesus, repeating his short little visit, told me, "My blessed daughter, the more one comprehends of my will, the more one enjoys its beauty and sanctity, and the more one shares in its goods. And the abandonment in it destroys all obstacles, and clasps the soul so tightly in its arms, that without effort my Fiat can regenerate its divine life in the creature. True and full abandonment says, with facts, do with me whatever you want. My life is yours, and I don't want to know anything about it any more." So the abandonment has the virtue of placing the creature at the mercy of my divine will. In fact, you must know that all things, and the very human nature, draw from the eternal motion of God, in such a way that everything revolves around him. The whole of creation, the breath, the heartbeat, the blood circulation, are under the empire of the eternal motion. And since everyone and everything receives life from this motion, they are inseparable from God. And as they have life, so do they revolve around the Supreme Being with a unanimous race. So the breath, the heartbeat, the human motion, it is not in their power to breathe, to palpitate, to move, whether they want it or not. Given the incessant motion of the Eternal One, they too feel the incessant act of breathing of palpitating, and of moving. It can be said that they live life together with God and with all created things, which revolve around him without ever stopping. Only the human will, as we had created it with the great gift of the free willing, that it might tell us freely that it loved us, not because it was forced, as the breath is forced to breathing, or the heart to beating, and to receiving the motion of its creator, but out of its wonted will, not forced, it might love us and remain together with us, to receive the operating life in our volition. It was the greatest honor and gift we gave to the creature, and she, ungrateful, moves away from our union and inseparability, and therefore from the union of all and of everything, and therefore she gets lost. She degrades herself, becomes debilitated, loses the one strength, and is the only one in the whole creation to lose her race, her place of honor, her beauty, her glory, and goes wandering, shifted from her place that she has in our will, which calls her, longs for her to be at her place of honor. So all have a place, even the human breath and heartbeat. And since everyone and everything has a place, they never lose life and their incessant motion. None of them feels poor, weak, but rich in the eternal motion of their Creator. Only the human will, because it does not want to be in the royal palace of the divine volition, is the lost one and the poorest of all. And because it feels poor, it feels unhappy, and is the disturber of the human family. Therefore, if you want to be rich, happy, never go down from your place of honor, which is inside our will. Then will you have everything in your power, strength, light, and also my very will. Fiat. May 20th, 1934. How the divine will devours, as though in one single breath, all the acts done in it, and makes of them one alone. How the divine will forms the guises of the humanity of our Lord, and makes it present to the creatures. I felt so very poor in love, but with the will of wanting to love him very, very much. I had received sweet Jesus sacramentally, and he was as though drowned with love, and I only a few little drops. Yet he was asking me for love, so as to give me love. But what to do to be able to match him in some way? So I thought to myself, my celestial mamma wants me to love my Jesus and hers very much. Well then, these little drops of love of mine, I want to pour into her seas of love. In this way, I will give him and tell him, I love you so much that I love you as your mamma loves you. Now it seemed to me that the sovereign lady rejoiced and felt happy because her daughter was loving Jesus with her love. And he was even more content, for he felt loved by me with the love of his mamma, and all content, he told me, "My little daughter of my will, you must know that one who lives in my fiat is never alone in her acts. She is incorporated into everything it has done, does, and will do, both within itself and in all creatures. So in the love of my mother, I felt the love of my daughter, and in the love of the daughter, the love of my divine mother. Oh, how beautiful were your tiny little drops of love, invested by the seas of love of my mamma. With one who lives in my volition, I feel heaven flow in her acts, in her love, in her will, and I feel the creature in heaven, and her acts, her love, her will, investing the empyrean, invading all, and forming one single act, one single love, and one single will. And the whole of heaven feels loved, glorified, in the creature, and she feels loved by all heaven. In my will, everything is unity. Separability does not exist, nor does any distance between places or times. Centuries disappear in my volition, and with its power, it devours everything in one single breath, and of everything it makes one continued act. What fortune for one who lives in my will, as she can say, "I do what they do in heaven, and my love is not dissimilar from their love." Only for one who does not live in my will, her acts are separable. They suffer loneliness, and are dissimilar from our acts. In fact, not being invested by its power, which has the virtue of converting into light whatever is done in it, hence, not being light, they cannot incorporate themselves with the acts of our will, which being inaccessible light, knows how to convert everything into light. And it is no wonder that light and light become incorporated with each other. Then I abandoned myself in the arms of baby Jesus. He made himself seen in that way. And he, drowned with love, abandoned himself in my arms, to enjoy the love of his mamma and mine, which I was giving to him. And then he added, "My daughter, if you see me as a little baby, it is by virtue of my divine will, which possesses within itself all the periods of my life down here, my tears, my pains, and everything I did. So in each instant, my will repeats the different periods of my life, to give to the creatures its admirable effects. And now it forms me as a baby, to give them the fruits of my infancy, my love, so very tender that I reach the point of crying, to have love from them, and receive their tenderness and compassion at my tears. Now it forms me as a boy, with an enchanting beauty, to make myself love, and captivate them to loving me. Now as a young man, to chain them with inseparable union. Now, crucified, to have them repair and compassionate me. And so with all the rest of the life of my humanity down here. O insuperable power and love of my will, what I did within the short round of 33 years, and finishing it up, I went back to heaven. My will shall be doing for centuries upon centuries, keeping my life ready to give it to each creature. Now you must know that if the Holy Church has the great honor of having souls who have the good of seeing me, of hearing me speak, as if I were again living in their midst, it is all due to my divine will. It is my will that forms my guises, and makes me as though present to creatures. My humanity is enclosed within its immensity, and by virtue of it holds the present act, as if I were in act of being born, and it gives me the guises of a baby. I grow, and it gives me the guises of a boy. The whole of my life lays in its power, and whatever the form it wants to give me, at whatever age it wants to show me, it forms my guises, and maintains my whole life as present act in the midst of creatures. My will holds your Jesus as living, and according to their dispositions. So it shapes my guises, and gives me to them, and it makes them feel how I cry, I suffer, I continue to be born and to die, and I burn with love, for I want to be loved. What does my will not do? It does everything. There is nothing over which it does not hold its primacy, the preserving virtue, and the perfect and continued balance, without ever ceasing, of all our works. My daughter, to my sorrow I say this, that what is lacking is the knowledge of what my adorable will does, the great good it constantly offers to creatures, and therefore it wants to be known. And because it is not known, it is neither appreciated nor loved, and creatures do not give it primacy over all our works. While my will is the primary font, and all our works are like many little fountains that receive and draw the life and the goods that they give to the creatures. Oh, if they knew what will of God means, and the good it offers to creatures, the earth would be transformed, and so drawn as to remain with its gaze fixed on it, and on receiving its perennial goods. But because it is not known, they don't give it a thought, and they disperse its goods in part. In fact, whether they want or do not want, whether they know or do not know, whether they believe or do not believe, it is my divine fiat that gives life, motion, and everything. It is the motive of all creation, and this is why I so much yearn for it to be known, what it does and can do, all of its divine history, to be able to abound with new gifts, and show off in love with greater abundance toward the creatures. So much so, that in order to do this, I wanted the sacrifice of your life, a sacrifice I had not asked of anyone, a sacrifice that cost you so much. Although you calculate this sacrifice when hindrances and circumstances arise, but I calculate it every day. I measure its intensity, its hardness, and the loss of daily life to which you submit yourself. Good daughter, this sacrifice of yours was necessary to my will, in order to make itself known, to give its knowledges. It wanted to make use of you as the channel through which to make itself known, and of your sacrifice as the powerful weapon to let itself be conquered, reveal itself, open its womb of light, and manifest itself for what it is. More so, since by doing her human will, the creature rejected and lost the life of the divine will. Therefore it was necessary that one creature would submit herself to the sacrifice of losing her life, losing any mastership over herself, so that my will might be moved to making itself known, so as to give back its divine life. It is always so in our operating. When we want to overabound more toward the creature, we ask for the sacrifice of one creature as a pretext, and then we make known the good that we want to do. And this good is given according to the knowledges that they acquire. Therefore, be attentive, and do not want to occupy yourself with useless thoughts on the reason for your state. It was necessary to our will, and that's enough. And you must be content and thank it. Fiat. June 16th, 1934. The human will, created as queen in the midst of creation. How everything flows through the fingers of our Creator. I continue my abandonment in the divine fiat. Its acts are for me like many nourishments, and as they nourish me, I feel the growth of its life within me, its strength, which is such that imposing itself on my human will, conquers it and captivates it into its own, to say to it, "Let us live together, and you will be happy of my same happiness." I have come out into daylight, not to keep you far away, but together with me, in my same will. If I created you, it is because I felt the need to love you and to be loved. Hence, your creation was necessary to my love, the place on which my will can lean, like a tiny little field of mine. I want to make a show of my works, of my mastery, and this in order to form and give vent to my love. Oh, adorable will, how lovable and admirable you are! So you want me inside of you, to give life to your outpouring of love? But if you so much love for the creature to live in your divine volition, why did you not create us like the sky, the sun, without a will, that the creature would do whatever you want? But while I was thinking this, my sweet Jesus, surprising me, all goodness, told me, "Blessed daughter, you must know that the most beautiful thing created by us was the human will. Among all created things, it is the most beautiful, the one that resembles us the most. And because of this, it can be called the queen among all, as in fact it is. All things are beautiful. Beautiful is the sun, which, with its vivifying light, gladdens and smiles at all. With its light it makes itself eye, hand, and step of all. Beautiful is the sky, which covers all with its starry mantle. But as beautiful as are all created things, none of them can boast of having done for us the littlest act of their own in order to love us. There is no outpouring of a requital. Everything is mute silence. And everything we do on our own. No echo responds to us in the face of the many seas of love which are present in all created things. Not even the littlest outpouring is given to us. In fact, an outpouring is formed between two wills that possess a reason and know whether they are doing good or evil. Therefore, the human will was created as queen in the midst of creation, queen of itself, outpouring of love with its creator, queen of all created things. It can do freely a world of good, prodigies of value, heroism of sacrifices, if it places itself on the side of good. But if it puts itself on the side of evil, queen as it is, it can do a world of ruin, and can fall from the highest place down into the bottom of the greatest mysteries. This is why among all things we love the human will. Because we make it queen, it can tell us that it loves us. It can nourish our outpouring of love. It can engage in a contest with us, we in loving it, and it in loving us. This is why we endowed it with such prerogatives, to the point of giving it our likeness. It is nothing but a simple act, yet it is the hand, the foot, the voice of its human being. If the creature did not have a will, she would be like the beasts, the slave of all, without the imprint of the divine nobility. In our divinity, most pure spirit, there is not a shadow of matter. Yet we invest everyone and everything, and we are the life, the motion, the foot, the hand, the eye of all. The human life flows through our fingers, as we are actor, spectator, breath, and heartbeat of each heart. And what we are for everything and for everyone, the human will is for itself. It can be said that because of the prerogatives it possesses, it can reflect itself in us, and we find our little mirror in it. Our power, wisdom, goodness, love, can form its reflections in the simple act of the human will. O human will, how beautiful you have been created by your Creator! Beautiful is the sky, the sun, but you surpass them. And even if you had nothing else that is beautiful, only because you can tell us that you love us, you possess the greatest glory, the enchantment with which you can enrapture your Creator. Fiat. You have reached the end of the Book of Heaven, Volume 33, Part 6. Fiat.